Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back again this week for another episode of Joe on Joe Illustrated, where we're digging into the G.I. Joe magazine universe. We're looking at the summer of 1987 G.I. Joe magazine. If you're new to the show, welcome on board. This show is it's kind of a follow-along, read-along show. That's how I've always described it. I've covered all of the episodes of the Sunbow cartoon, the DIC, the Extreme, and we've talked about all of the issues of the Marvel Comics, issue by issue, panel by panel, Larry Hama books. So it's kind of, this whole show is designed to read along with and to watch along with. So I like to keep that tradition going as we cover the magazines. So hope you're on board and I hope you enjoy it. To all you veteran listeners, thank you again for lending me your ear. I appreciate it so much. If you want to reach out and let me know which kind of listener you are, you can find me online at Joe on Joe Pod. That is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. That is your direct line to a good time. We have a winner in our Cobra Convergence G.I. Joe 31 cover recreation contest, I guess is what I would give it a call. Listener Bradley Glynn, you're awesome. He's the winner, and so we're going to be mailing him the original artwork from our Cobra Convergence issue, our episode, the 3-hour extravaganza. I don't know how many. Bradley deserves it just for sitting through the 3-hour drawing of it, but it was a lot of fun to do, and I absolutely will be going back to doing some drawing again for some of we have the other how to draw books to finish. I think I have one more to do, so we'll be getting back to that, and then who knows what the future brings. I'm also working on an extended, I think it's going to be like a 10-week project, like a little 10-week special edition. We've been recording them in secret. And that'll be this fall. That's going to be exciting. More on that when the news is apropos. Speaking of apropos news, man, we had a great time this weekend. Got together with a bunch of Joe Bros here in SoCal, and we played G.I. Joe Mission Critical. I'd love to say that we played multiple rounds of G.I. Joe Mission Critical, but it took us a long time to suss out the rules. We've played it before, but it was a long time. It was probably a good 6 months ago, so I kind of forgot all the rules. So it took us a while to get back up to speed. And then, let's just say, sometimes the people who write the rules for some of these games, they should sit with some dummies like me and really see where the rules fail you. Because it was there was a lot of stuff that it took us a little while to suss out. So what was supposed to be an hour game turned into a multiple hour fiesta. However, we had a great time. Lots of good Joe conversation. A ton of great Joe conversation over our Labor Day weekend. It was a lot of fun. The game is very fun. We really enjoy Mission Critical. I've got all of the expansions. We busted out. I know Sergeant Slaughter came into play. The General Hawk expansion, we using him as a playable character. He is powerful, man. You can use our General Hawk. Never left the headquarters. All he did was assist from the sidelines, and it was fantastic. He really helped it, and we beat Destro at the end. Now, just like a good cartoon, Dr. Mindbender, who was one of the lieutenants at one of the locations, he got away untouched, unscathed, but we did beat Destro rather, and Destro lost to us. And nail biting final round finish. That was exciting. So we had a lot of fun with that. If you guys haven't picked up that game, it's a lot of fun. I know they're doing, I think they're doing it for the role-playing game, like starter kits. But I thought I saw they were doing starter kits for Mission Critical, where you can get it for a little bit of a discount to get going. It's a ton of fun. So totally recommended. We had a great time. I know we're going to try to do it soon. The thing is, once you figure out those games, you can't play a second round because you're exhausted from the 3 hours it took you to figure out the first round, but then you don't play it again for another 6 months, so you forget about how to play it. If you went back and played it again relatively soon, like in like a month, we'd remember how to play the game and we could get multiple rounds in. However, life is life. So it's great. It's a lot of fun. A lot of G.I. Joe talk. Also, I got some cool stuff. I put it together, the diorama of the Tomax and Zaymot backer card that I got from 3D Joe's. It's in a little lighted diorama with Tomax and Zaymot. I threw a Crimson Guardsman in there to kind of complete the frame. It looks fantastic. Once I get it in its final resting place and kind of all plugged in and lit up, I will share some photos on Instagram. So it's a good time. It's all about Joe, baby. It's all about Joe. Not this Joe, the G.I. Joe. So this week we're going to talk about G.I. Joe the magazine. But before we do that, though, we do need to say that it is also all about our great sponsors, the Movies in a Meal podcast. They keep this show afloat. They're wonderful sponsors. They've been sponsored for many, many years, and we all go to the movies. Movies are like a constant source of discussion. I don't care who you are. Everyone's talking about what movies they've seen, what movies are you watching at home, Netflix and chilling, going to the theaters, so on and so forth. So tune into Movies in a Mill podcast because they're going to give you the lowdown what they thought of these movies. In the time since I recorded last week, I can't remember if I told you about how I saw The Crow last week, and it was god awful. But this week we saw Strange Darling, and I didn't hate it. I thought it was a ride. It was a horror ride. It was definitely a horror ride, and it keeps you guessing, and I like that part of it. So interesting. Certainly not for everyone. It is a R-rated horror movie, but we saw that over the weekend, so that was a thing. And yeah, so I recommend you guys get together, watch a bunch of G.I. Joe movies, play Renegades, and then on the way home, and you're driving from having a great time with your Joe Bros, hit play on the Movies in a Meal podcast and see what they thought of the latest releases. And I think you're going to have a great day. So thank you guys so much. And now let's dig into the G.I. Joe magazine, A Real American Hero. Awesome cover by Dave Dorman. And don't forget, as always, you can follow along with this read-through from our friend Carson over at the 3djoes.com website. He's got full scans, high-res scans, PDFs of every issue and every page. So if you don't have this magazine with you, you can certainly go over to the website and follow along. Very easy to find. I'm lucky enough to have a magazine with me, so we're going to be doing it old school style. Dave Dorman painted cover with Chuckles jumping off of a devilfish while Jinx is not only just driving the devilfish, but also cheering him on. He's got an awesome machete in his hand. That machete has chunks taken out of it. It has seen some action. And he's leaping towards Crockmaster, who is on a Cobra Nightlander boat, which was one of the coolest toys of like just a simple... The night landing boat that they made for Cobra is utilitarian, simple, and awesome. Like it doesn't do not a lot of bells and whistles, but you see it and you're like, yeah, of course they'd have a boat like that. That's really cool. Let's get 50 of them, an army build. And Crockmaster's Crocodile, which I can't remember if they named... I know they named this Croc currently with Classified series. I forget that name, but I don't remember if back in the day this crocodile had a name. But either way, the Croc's in the picture, although it's facing the wrong way. It's facing camera, which makes sense. You don't want to see the butt of a crocodile. Very angry. And in the background on land is G.I. Joe Havoc going up against a Cobra Stun in the desert. Or on the sand, rather not desert, but on the sand. It's a fun picture. I guess this got blown up into a puzzle. And it's Dave Dorman, so it's quality. It's really good. So you guys know this photo, or you've seen this cover. It's really nice. There is a advertisement for Jif Creamy Peanut Butter. It says, the great taste of Jif, it'll rock your socks off. And there are two children in here whose parents should be arrested for child abuse. They are dressed... They're dressed to be hip 80s kids, and they've got a nightmare of a look going on. She's got like full pink see-through plastic glasses on. Like, I can't really think of the way to describe them. He's got his glasses up on his spiky hair, on his forehead. He's got a pink boombox. Their shorts are offensive. Her shirt's offensive. She's got bangles on. He's got all the teal you can handle. This is like Back to the Future. Like if they were in the fifth, if it was like when they went to the future in Back to the Future, and if they were retroing what they dressed like in the 80s, this is what it would look like. It's absolutely hilarious. When you see it, you'll know what I'm saying, because even the border of this advertisement doesn't let go of the 80s. Even the border needs to have triangles and rectangles to make it look like confetti, like it's so exciting that this peanut butter, it's going to rock your socks off. So get ready for that. Table of contents, some features we've got this month. We've got a nice feature on Timothy Dalton, James Bond. I love Timothy Dalton as James Bond. We've got a story here today about Cobra's Miami Madness. That's what's happening. Talk about some Major League Baseball. We get some mail call. Talk about like the hit movies that are in the theaters, the code breakers, and then they have their regular adventure with a segment towards the end of the book. This one, I'll say this, it feels, and it may be 100% the same page count, but this actual issue feels less Joe than the other one. This really feels more of Spring to All Fields and less G.I. Joe centric. I don't know why that is. It probably is completely the same page count, but yeah, I don't know. As I flipped through it, it just felt less Joe. So to all our Joe fans, this is from General Hawk. He's once again in charge. Falcon did a terrible job last issue, apparently. He's welcome to the summer issue. Inside, you'll find action stories, exciting photos, informative articles. You'll discover if the Joes can stop an evil Cobra plot to blow up Miami. Have a great summer, Joe team. You are dismissed to begin reading. Got this advertisement for Striped Chips Ahoy. I have seen on so many comic books of this era, because this was the meat era for me for comic books, man. You know the one I'm talking about. It's 12 panels across, shows the chip getting striped, and then a bite gets taken out of it. You're picturing it in your head right now. Mail call. We've got letters here from Justin Gates from Carrollton, Texas. As always, if I say your name, or if you know someone whose name I say, you're required by law to let me know, because we want to celebrate you. So if you wrote to them, you got your letter printed, you were required by law to reach out to me via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Joe and Joe Pod, and let me know. Justin Gates from Carrollton, Texas. Reagan Singh from Flushing, New York. He's very excited about Code Breakers. Andy Yoon from Lisle, Illinois. He's at 9.5, and he loves the idea of G.I. Joe having their own magazine. He likes to play polar ball, which is football in the snow. You know, Andy, in Chicago, we did just call that football. Here's one from Kyle Mazzelli from Howell, Michigan. Here's one from Spenceport, New York. It's from a kid whose favorite is the action-packed story South American Sleepover. Now, that was the story where the Joes rescued the South American cocaine plant under the guise of a coffee manufacturing company, but we know what was up. And this is notable because the Spencerport, New York author of this is a guy by the name of Kevin Ricotta. It's very Italian. In our house, it was pronounced Rigot. So I'm just saying, his dad may or may not be connected. We've got a nice drawing from David Spencer out of Olean, New York, of the Night Ravens launch pod, the thing on top of it. I forget what that was called. You know, the secondary jet, the little surf jet thing that was on top of it. It's a nice rendering of that. We've also got Danny Sturm from Baltimore, Maryland. He did a drawing of Crystal Ball. It's, he's doing it. He's living his best life. Steve Ziegler from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, he wrote in. He likes soccer, and he likes Big Boa. Jason Waltz from Layton, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, and he thinks the magazine is great. Any kid who doesn't think so is nuts. That's straight out of Jason Waltz's mouth. Next page, ready or not, here come the Garbage Pail Kids in their first movie. And you've got a kid busting out of a filthy garbage pail into a mound of filth. This is a great ad because they didn't have to pay for any prosthetics on the face. They can just have a child climbing out of a broken garbage can. Whoever put this together, very smart. They saved a lot of money. It does appear to be real rancid food, so good job there. The Garbage Gang is alive and grosser than ever. See them at a theater near you this summer. That movie was legendarily bad, and a classic by all accounts. Didn't it have the kid, the Aston kid, John Aston, one of John Aston's kids, I think was in that, and wasn't he also the kid that was on Facts of Life at the time? Anyway, the next page, we got a commercial, or an advertisement rather, for Kool-Aid coolers, Yaha Kool-Aid, barely in there. The big picture though, although it's, no, I guess they're in there. It's the Jets. You guys remember the Jets? You Got It All. What was their other big Crush on You? Those songs were huge hits. And the Jets got themselves a Kool-Aid commercial out of it. One of the Jets is playing his saxophone, and out of that saxophone is a bunch of red Kool-Aid with a bunch of coolers, but they're so small you can hardly tell what they are, and the rest of the Jets are celebrating them. I'll say this, I never knew they were a Tongan family. They're from Tonga. No idea. Growing up, I think we thought they were Puerto Rican, because we were dumb. So celebrate the Jets here, and celebrate their Kool-Aid coolers commercial. All right, next page. On target. So here's a couple small little things about, there's a soapbox derby on August 15th in Akron, Ohio. They talk about the history of that. That's exciting. I don't know, anyone ever participate in a soapbox derby? We had a big hill near us in Chicago Ridge, Illinois, and there was something like this. It wasn't a soapbox derby per se, but it was like a summer race. They would do it around like the summer Ridge Fest thing, and you would race down that hill in your homemade wagon or, whatever silly box car thing. It would just be a race down that big hill. We totally did something like this in Chicago Ridge. Completely forgot about that until this moment. They weren't like, when you watch soapbox derby, they're aerodynamic and, professionally, quasi-professionally made. These were just make something silly with wheels and go down the street. We totally used to do that. We've also got, here we go, this is exciting. It's a little ad, not an ad, but like an awareness thing, that the new hip trend in summer wear are shorts that don't, basically shorts that go past the crotch. They're called jams, and they're the hottest beachwear around. They're knee-length shorts, and they come in these totally gnarly colors and patterns, perfect for hanging out at the beach or the pool. And this is a huge shift, ladies and gentlemen, because now, I don't know, I haven't worn almost every short I've ever worn in my adulthood has been barely above the knee, right? Like, I'm not interested in anything that goes more than like half an inch above the knee. Keep it. But back in the 80s, for some of you youngsters, shorts were short, man. They were called shorts for a reason. They were awkward and they were uncomfortable both to wear and to look at. So this must have been the time when people finally realized we don't have to walk around in nut huggers. We can absolutely put on regular shorts that go a little further than, the top of your thigh. So this is exciting. Good for these kids. Next page. This is exciting. This summer, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace is heading to theaters. The magazine has a summer guide to the best movies. We know the Superman 4, The Quest for Peace as a film turned out pretty poorly. However, there are some things in that movie that are awesome. His fight with the Nuclear Man is really great. Remove the fact that he can rebuild the Great Wall of China magically, but like there's some really great fight stuff with that. Gene Hackman chews the scenery. It's awesome. The idea behind it, like just the message that Christopher Reeve wanted to get across with that is really great. It's just the execution was lacking. They had no budget. And I guess it always still bothers me to this day. It made no sense how they could cut a piece of his hair and still say that they're showing him cut that hair and then they're saying that it's indestructible. We just watched you cut the hair. The only explanation could be that he was cutting the metal bracket that was holding the hair. That's the consolation I took from it. But that's not really how it's presented. Anyway. The Monster Squad, that was really a great flick. Adventures in Babysitting is an all-timer. That's one of those, like, it needs to be rediscovered how great it was. Movies like like the Neverending Story, that kind of a thing. Really, really great. The first on-screen appearance of Thor, as done by the Kingpin. It's so good. We also talk about Spaceballs. That's fun. All right. Then we get a little advertisement for the magazine. We get a little conversation about Hey Vern, it's Ernest Goes to Camp. So we got some more Ernest films this summer. Encyclopedia Brown books. I was a big Encyclopedia Brown guy. I don't know about you guys. I loved Encyclopedia Brown. I have not revisited that in decades. I have no idea if it would still be interesting. Got an advertisement here for a 20th anniversary tribute to Star Trek, The Trouble with Tribbles. A commemorative plate. I had some commemorative plates when I was a kid. I still have them. I'm still waiting for them to be valuable. Gonna keep hope alive for another 50 years. Got a couple thing on water skiing. Couple pages on water skiing here. Slalom into summer with this wet and wild sport. This is something I have never been able to do. I am not good at this. I have tried it many times, and all I do is fall and hurt myself. Pull-out poster is the Defiant. It's that 87 one, so it's not just the Defiant. It's got a lot of the class of 87. It's got Crazy Legs, Psych Out, Outback, Law and Order, the Cobra Pogo, those kind of things. But the big draw of it is the Defiant. It's the that airbrush looking paint one. I mean, this might be Dave Dorman too. I don't know. Got an ad for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs movie theater release tickets. So you could order for $10. You can get two passes, one theater admission to see Snow White July 17th. In the theaters, and they give you a little keepsake, solid bronze commemorative coin, blah, blah, blah. Basically, they were making an event of it. Remember, Disney was very reluctant to bring their stuff to home video, if you remember at the time. It was all about the theater re-releases. They wanted to get that theater money. And they were very slow to release for purchasable home video stuff. And when they did, they started doing them in... like they would vault them. They would say like Snow White's only going to be available for 2 years. If you don't buy it after that, you won't be able to buy it. Who knows how long, so they really try to artificially suppress the market on that. So here we go. It's an article on James Bond, Timothy Dalton. For my money, definitely at least the fourth best Bond. But I think he vacillates, depending on how much you love Roger Moore and or Connery. I think it's between him and Moore. I think in kind of a cage match as far as who is the better Bond. I think Connery and Daniel Craig go head to head for 1 and 2 spots, and then I think even though he only did 2 films, Timothy Dalton's Bond is fantastic. Timothy Dalton's great, but his Bond is great, and those movies were very much a product of their times. It was a changing era. A lot of social norms were changing, and so they were trying to respond to that and be responsible in some ways. So some of the stuff is a little less crazy like they were with Roger Moore and everything. But Living Daylights is great, and License to Kill is awesome, and it just didn't hit. It was a more real take. If they did those movies now and gave it that Daniel Craig sheen, that type of modernism that they did with Daniel Craig, but did the same plots and same kind of stories, that'd be awesome. Those movies would be huge hits. But I remember this was real controversial at the time because it took a lot of the cheese that Roger Moore brought to it. It removed that from it. However, there is a line in this article about, I'll read this to you. There's a chase scene in Daylights where stuntmen are running into a stately house, chasing a villain dressed as a milkman. The evil milkman hurls bottles filled with explosives at his opponents. Accuracy is critical. The stuntmen have to step exactly a certain distance from the explosion, which is set off by someone off camera to keep from being hurt. So exploding milk bottles is what I'm saying. That's still pretty funny. I like that. So yeah, this article is about the stunts of James Bond, which are always fascinating to see. I think even through the Daniel Craig stuff, it's all very real, which is fascinating. We've got an ad for the Visionaries coming from Hasbro. These are the action figure dudes with animals on their chest or demons. That those who control the magic control the destiny. I think it was like when you looked at a certain way, the hologram would reveal what kind of monster they were, if they were a good monster or a bad monster, something like that. We've got Cobra's Miami Madness story, which we'll dig into in a short second. Code breakers. Commercials for some VHS videos you can buy at home from the Pole Position cartoon, which I do not ever remember seeing, but I kind of remember existing. Inspector Gadget, which of course was great. I used to watch that along. The Get Along Gang, which I remember. And then, of course, Mask, the Mobile Armored Strike Command. Mask was great. Mask is something that really needs, and I know IDW tried to bring it back and try to incorporate it. I don't know why that wouldn't work. It's the perfect symbiosis between G.I. Joe and Transformers. It needs to happen. And we've got a Adventure with a Safari Guide. So this is that final piece that they always do in these issues, where it's just a one-page interview, and this is with Bruce Heelan. His job takes him to some of the wildest places on Earth. He's an expert safari guide with the Sobek International Explorer Society. That seems like a Cobra acronym, right? S-I-N, or it's S-I-E-S, CEASE. Like something Cobra, something Cobra. They led thousands of adventurous travelers into the deepest, darkest wilderness and safely led them back out again. I like that they had to add safely, because he's led thousands of travelers into the wilderness and he's led hundreds out. So they recently talked to Bruce, who's 33 years old at the time. Arizona, where he was gearing up for his next journey into the jungle. So 33 years old, 87. 97, 2007, 17. So he's probably about 66, 67 years old at this point. Maybe he's still working it. Maybe we'll look him up on social media. So that's kind of neat. And at the very end, we get an ad for Hasbro toy, the Air Raiders. The power is in the air. This is a toy I vaguely remember. I think these were a little mini, like undersized stuff, weren't they? It's like the characters weren't 3 3/4. The characters were a little smaller. And the big thing was that the vehicles were all, like they shot stuff. Like it was the draw was the vehicles, not necessarily the characters. State-of-the-art fighter planes like the Hawkwind and the Twin Lightning. Interesting. Yeah, didn't they shoot like little discs, right? I don't know. Kind of sounds familiar. Some of the stuff. I was a very focused kid. Like I would have seen this and been like, oh, that's neat, and never even tried to get one because I was so into like getting G.I. Joe. Well, at this time I was getting out of G.I. Joe, to be frank. And of course, on the back cover, one of my big regrets. Now you can be the next Joe. You can get your own Real American Hero, get a G.I. Joe action figure of you, plus your own personalized file card. I never did this. And so I never did a Steel Brigade. Never had, I mean, I saw this ad so many times. I think I filled this card out often. I think I filled it out and just never sent it in. So I never got a Steel Brigade. That would have been neat. We did do, at San Diego this year at the Hasbro booth, they had a make your own file card thing. That was kind of fun. It was pretty fast. I have the email answer for it. I forget what it was. I was like a time traveling something or other, and it was totally cool. I'm not complaining, but I don't like time travel in my G.I. Joe. I got to be honest. I think that was an option they should have removed. But here we go. Sit back, relax, strap it down, and soften up those ears for some Cobra's Miami Madness. Can the Joes pull the plug on Cobra's Miami Vice? Lowercase Vice. Get it? Again, by the way, another story that centers around the 1980s cocaine trade. Just saying. Cobra Commander slowly tore the peel from a juicy orange, Florida orange. Now, also, this is Cobra Commander in the image, battle armor Cobra Commander. We got battle armor Cobra Commander now, so imagine that. Could be Fred, could be old CC himself, but it probably is Fred. As he did, he imagined the orange was the world. He was stripping away all of the G.I. Joe defenses around the globe. Where are the boats now? Cobra Commander asked. Across the hotel room from him, the Baroness stood outside on a terrace balcony. She was looking at the blue waters off Miami Beach through the high-powered binoculars. All 15 boats are in the harbor, she said. In the water below were 15 gleaming yachts and more than 50 smaller sailboats. Each yacht carried the flag of a different nation. They were assembled for the International Festival of Sailing Ships. Then give the signal, Baroness, said Cobra Commander. The Baroness, using the sun and a mirror from her purse, flashed a signal toward the water. The signal was answered by a squadron of Cobra eels. 200 feet offshore. In a few hours, there will be a bomb attached to every one of these diplomatic yachts, Cobra Commander said. And tonight, during the enormous fireworks display, we will have the pleasure of blowing the foolish leaders of 15 countries into fish food. Cobra Commander smiled and crushed the peeled orange in his hand. Juice spattered his silver battle armor. At that moment, only a mile away, 4 Joes were sitting in a jeep, looking at a detailed map of Miami Beach. "We've been here for 8 hours," said Jinx, the ninja warrior, "and we haven't been able to find Cobra yet." Lieutenant Falcon, the Green Beret, who was leading the mission, slammed his fist on the dashboard. "I've got to admit it," he said. "The snakes are keeping their cover tight. Whatever they're up to, they're doing it with a low profile this time." "Well," Gung Ho said, "we've checked about 50 different hotels and motels already. Did they check a Holiday Inn? That only leaves about 200 more. At this rate, it'll take us another 3 days just to find them." "Start up the engine of this buggy," Wetsuit said. "Every one of us knows that Cobra won't wait that long to strike." Now, this being 1987, and them including Gung Ho in this, there are no images of Gung Ho, but since they're playing, they're using the versions that were on sale, I gotta imagine this is Gung Ho in his dress blues. In Miami Beach, on the hunt. Were they to illustrate this, it would be Gung Ho in his dress blues. That's a funny visual. "Start up the engine of this buggy," Wetsuit said. "Every one of us knows that Cobra won't wait that long to strike." While the hours ticked away, the Joe team went from hotel to hotel, looking for signs of Cobra. Meanwhile, Cobra Commander was safe in his hotel room, receiving the news he was waiting to hear. "Cobra Commander," the Baroness said, "the eels have signaled that the bombs are now in place. Let's detonate them now." "No," Cobra Commander snapped at her. "We will wait for the fireworks tonight. Do you think all I want is to destroy ships? On a beautiful day like today, the world leaders are not on their yachts. Most of them are in the shops spending money on new clothes for tonight." "Now, Baroness," smiled Cobra Commander, "send Crockmaster to me." The Baroness walked down the hotel hallway toward Crockmaster's room. "Come in," Crockmaster shouted when he heard the Baroness knock. "It's open, and I got my hands full." "Hands full?" The Baroness didn't like the sound of that. Neither do I, frankly. She swung the door open wide. There was Crockmaster wrestling with a crocodile in the thick wall-to-wall carpeting. "Where did that thing come from?" the Baroness shouted. The Everglades," Crockmaster said, flipping the beast onto its back. "I couldn't stay away from that beautiful stinking swamp." "Fool!" Cobra Commander gave strict orders that no one should leave these rooms. You could jeopardize the entire mission. "Well, you got a big mouth," Crockmaster muttered under his breath as he removed his arm from the snapping crocodile. "Get rid of that thing immediately," said the Baroness. "Well, come on, my little Pierre," Crockmaster said, lifting the crocodile over his head. "Our part is over." Crockmaster walked out onto his balcony with the croc and jumped over the railing right into the hotel swimming pool below. "Idiot!" said the Baroness, exploded as the screams of the sunbathing tourists began to reach her ear. That's really funny. And there is a drawing of Crockmaster playing with a beach ball with this crocodile and a little kid in the pool with him fleeing for his life while other people run away. It's quite the drawing. I recommend checking out. It's very funny. Dusk fell on Miami Beach, and the Joes walked the crowded beaches. Thousands of people gathered on blankets, waiting for the evening's fireworks to begin. But after hours of searching Miami's hotels from top floor to basement, the Joes had come up empty. So big picture, this plan of theirs to go from hotel to hotel, are they barging in on every? I mean, I guess you could just ask the person at the front desk, but I can't imagine Cobra Commander would walk in the front door in his full outfit. You know what I mean? Like it seems like a weak idea, G.I. Joe. Wetsuit shook his head and patted the rifle hidden under his fatigue jacket. "What's the use of carrying on a snakebite kit when you can't find any snakes?" he grumbled. "Well, maybe they're not here after all," Falcon said. "Our intelligence officers were never really sure." "They're here, all right. I can feel it," Jinx said. "And my guess is they're going to blow up one of those foreign diplomats' yachts. But which one?" Out in the harbor, the fireworks barge was being towed into position. The Joes continued along the sand, watching for just one false move. Suddenly, Jinx stopped. "Hey, look at that," she said, pointing at a 10-year-old boy. He was a smallish, blonde-haired kid, sitting on a bleach blanket, drawing on a sketch pad. "What's the matter, Jinx? You never seen a kid before?" asked Gung Ho, with a nervous laugh. And not one drawing a Cobra insignia, Jinx said. The Joe team double-timed it to the boy's blanket. Son, Falcon said, where did you see that snake? Well, some nut was wearing it, the boy said. He had it on his armband. Well, what nut? Said Falcon. Asked Falcon, rather. The one playing with a crocodile in the hotel swimming pool, said the boy. Galloping Gatorade, Wetsuit shouted. It's Crockmaster. Well, Crockmaster, the boy said. That's a cool name, but what a jerk. It would have been awful, except no one was in the pool at the time. Most of the people here are like my mom. They don't want to get their hair wet. Quick, asked Jinx, can you show us which hotel? Well, I'll even show you the room, the boy offered. I followed that creep when he took his crocodile back upstairs. Moments later, the Joes were in the empty suite next to Cobra Commanders, but before they could burst into Cobra's room, they had to find out what the strike target was. Jinx quickly put her audio surveillance equipment to work, and they were able to hear the snake's every word loud and clear. Why haven't you gotten rid of that hideous animal yet? Cobra Commander shouted at Crockmaster. We'll chew him out later, Lieutenant Falcon said softly from the other side of the wall. Just talk about the target. What is the strike target? Which boat? Why are we waiting? It was the Baroness's voice. We should blow up the ships right now. No, said Cobra Commander. We wait until the fireworks, and then, boom, all 15 at once. All 15 boats, Lieutenant Falcon whispered. Let's go. Immediately, the Joe team snapped into action. Wetsuit headed for the water to disengage the Cobra bombs on the 15 yachts. Jinx set up a portable radio transmitter to jam the radio frequencies Cobra would use to detonate the bombs. And Falcon and Gung Ho readied their weapons. But as the minutes dragged by, there was no word from Wetsuit, and Jinx couldn't find the Cobra radio frequencies. Time was running out. It was almost dark, and the fireworks would start any minute. There was nothing else to do but play a surprise visit to Cobra Commander and knock out the detonator. Gung Ho got a running charge, and with a scream, he ran right through the layers of wallboard into Cobra's room. So they don't even bother with the door, they're just busting the wall down. He hit the floor to cover Falcon, who rushed in afterwards, revolver drawn. Cobra Commander, the Baroness, and the Crockmaster stood on the terrace. Don't waste your ammunition on me, the Chief Snake said. Here's what you want, and you're welcome to it. With that, Cobra Commander tossed the bomb detonator to Gung Ho. Then the three Cobras leaped off the balcony. There were jetpacks on their backs, which ignited, and they flew off with a trail of white smoke. Burp, burp. Lieutenant Falcon rushed over to the detonator, a small black box with flashing red and yellow lights. It's a time delay mechanism, and it's already been tripped, Falcon said, angrily slamming his revolver back in his holster. If we try to disarm it, it'll blow the bombs. I've got some more bad news, Falcon. I can't jam the radio, shouted Jinx from the other room. The fireworks are starting, Falcon, Gung Ho said. Overhead, red, white, and blue skyrockets launched and exploded in the air. The crowd on the beach oohed and awed. The Joes searched the water with their binoculars. Well, there he is, Jinx shouted. Wetsuit is in a small motorboat heading out to sea. What's he doing? Gung Ho asked. He's probably getting himself out of there, Jinx replied. All three Joes were silent as they watched Wetsuit speeding away from the yachts, which were about to explode. But suddenly, they noticed a small splash in the water next to his craft. A moment later, the boat zoomed off towards the horizon and exploded in a bright burst of light that rocked the water with great waves. He did it! He loaded all the bombs onto that motorboat, Gung Ho cheered. There's his signal, Jinx reported. Wetsuit is okay. The crowd on the shore cheered and applauded. They thought it was all part of the show. Well, I always get a good bang out of a good fireworks show, said Gung Ho with a smile. Yeah, Jinx agreed, especially when Cobra's plot turns out to be a real bomb. Bum, bum, bum. That was fantastic. I liked that story. Thought it was a lot of fun. I liked imagining Gung Ho in his dress blues doing all that adventure. That's really fun to me. I like the use of wet. Everyone had a good use. I'm here. I'm here for it. A little anticlimactic with the showdown with Cobra Commander and Baroness and Crockmaster. Really, from reading all these so far, I genuinely think that there was an edict to like tone down any actual violence. You know, so like when they confront them, remember the one underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. Like we saw him shoot, but we never saw him actually attack. Who was it? Was it Crockmaster or Mindbender? Whoever was under the, you know what I mean? Like we never saw the results of it. I think it was Crazy Legs too, right? In this case, no one actually throws any punches. No one actually gets hurt. They bust in and they shoot away on jetpacks. That kind of stuff. So that feels like an edict. So I can't knock it for that. I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. It was nice use. I think it was neat to be like, yeah, they just went from hotel to hotel, and it was absolutely useless until they meet a kid who was put out because Crockmaster brought his crocodile into the swimming pool. That's very funny. And that kid's in the drawing too, which is just fantastic. So I loved it. Hope you all enjoyed this issue and this episode of Joe on Joe, summer of 1987. We'll be back next week with the next year, which would be winter, I think, or is it fall? What would it be? Let's see here. I'll give you a little tease. Next year would be, they did summer, they did fall. It's going to be fall of 87 next year. It looks like Falcon, Cobra Commander in his suit. Looks like Lifeline's involved, and we have a little Dreadnought action, a Thunder Machine. That's going to be great. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. Now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.